Hey, welcome to Totally a Thing, and this is the couch broadcast. A little bit informal, but I've been working on this particular article for so long, and I thought the only way I'm going to nail this is if I just sit down and bang it out, because it's something that's a little bit dear to my heart, and it relates to artificial intelligence. It relates to ethical standards within the computing professional practice, and it also relates to startups, and of course those are all subjects that I've been dealing with in my series of videos so far. So I drew this picture, show the picture, and I did this to kind of illustrate this current issue right now that's happening with AI companies and using images, text, and intellectual property from folks who didn't authorize that usage. I'm going to put on the screen now an article from Gary Marcus, who is a prominent computer scientist, someone who worked in AI for a very long time and has published over 100 books on the subject. Gary's books were taken by a large AI company via the technique of picking them up out of pirate websites, and as a result they are now baked into artificial intelligence models and deployed out there in the wild. Now, there's been a lot of authors complaining about this. There's been a lot of people saying, hey, look, my books were stolen, this is not on, we shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. And I agree completely. So this is me coming out for Totally a Thing to make a stand on this particular issue, and also to try to clarify some of the technology around this. So let's have a look at this diagram. So I'm going to be looking down here at my iPad, which is where I drew this, and I sketched it with my pen here. I'll put this up on the screen. But in this scenario, it's very easy for folks to think, well, no harm, no foul. You know what? Sure, there was some books, they took them, they put them into the model, but you know, what does it mean? Like, a model, what is that? I don't really understand. I just go and use my OpenAI and I do whatever. Well, the reality is that there's three main ingredients for an AI company to run. They need compute, so massive data centers that cost an enormous number in the billions of dollars worth of electricity to run worldwide at the moment. So much so that it's causing a crisis. And apart from compute, they need technologists. So people like me, software engineers, but more specifically engineers who are experts in the deployment, the creation, the fine-tuning, general science all around artificial intelligence. So they need to pay professionals. Now, both of those things cost an inordinate amount of money, tons and tons. But when it comes to data, which is the single thing that really is the grist to the mill, to the AI mill, suddenly they don't want to pay anymore. And that's just wrong. Like, you should not be scooping up data without paying for it. And in my opinion, it's not just an issue of, oh, you know what, geez, you caught us, too bad, you know, like, yeah, we shouldn't have had our hand in the till, we shouldn't have snuck in and taken that stuff, you know, we'll give you a few bits of coin now to pay for it, now that you caught us. That is completely wrong. Like, if I, you know, break into a hardware store and steal a bunch of stuff, I don't just get to turn around and say, oh, you know, I'll pay for that jacket or whatever it was that torch or whatever it was that I stole, right? It doesn't work like that. There needs to be some sort of punitive mechanism that comes in to say, hey, no, you cannot go around making a business out of stealing other people's intellectual property. But still, it could persist, this idea that, you know, if AI companies go and do this, what is the real harm? What is the real outcome? Like, these are the manuscripts of books. They're in an electronic form. Surely those authors can then go on and sell those books. Well, that's what I wanted to highlight with this this kind of cartoony drawing that I did. So up at the left here, we've got our author, Amos. He sits down, he spends months and months, as you can see by the calendar in the background. He's referencing all those research books. And as an author myself, and you know, people like Gary Marcus, other folks who are scientists, we're authors as well, we know what it's like to put all of the hard yards into researching a book, because we put our reputation on the line when we do that. Even the same for fiction authors who have had their books stolen. So we put in those months, the calendar pages rip away, and then finally we produce this finished, completed manuscript. Maybe it goes to a conventional publisher. Maybe it goes via self-publishing route, but whatever the case, some kind of big vendor like AWS, Amazon Books, Kindle Direct Publishing, they serve up those books from their data centers, their big ebook sales website, and from those Amazon books, we've got them all there in massive catalogs, and folks can jump in on their web browser or their Kindle, their Kobo, whatever it happens to be, and browse and locate those books. And then Amos, the chain goes back. You know, he gets not just the reward, the financial reward of knowing that, you know, he can pay his rent, he can afford to keep writing books, he can pay for the, you know, the laptop, you know, electricity to run his home and all that sort of thing. But he also gets this knowledge that folks have derived some value from his writing. So that's that chain of those green arrows that you can see going across there. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, for a long time we've had this additional problem with piracy, and my own personal opinion, I think that is wrong. If you can't afford a book, you should not be pirating it, especially if you are in the business of creating things yourself. I sadly have spoken to a number of professionals of various kinds who just say, oh, you know what, I'm just not going to pay for those books. I can get them from a pirate website. Anyway, that's kind of orthogonal to what we're talking about. But, you know, we've got this person who obtains these books by whatever means, you know, perhaps by signing up to Kindle Direct and getting some kind of multiple accounts and siphoning off huge quantities of books or whatever. Whatever the case, these ebooks are royalty-free, get uploaded to a pirate server. Now, there is the problem that a lot of these ebooks on these servers, when you download them, actually have a lot of viruses in them. They have kind of a honeypot type thing where you go to get a particular ebook, you try all these links, and it's just getting you to sign up to various things just in order to spam you by collecting your email address and so on. So I do not recommend it. If you think you're going to get free books by pirating them, you're taking a lot of risks. But in any case, those red arrows that are coming down there, that's showing that yes, we do have this problem. So what is new? Both of those things are not really soluble by the AI companies, right? But what happened was we've got our AI company executives there. Maybe you'll recognize them by their portraits. I am going to say that I allege that these things that these guys did, but I will be showing some articles which uses some pretty strong language to say exactly what they really did. And it seems pretty obvious. For example, Sam Altman has recently been exposed as having done some extremely indefensible things. And also there's this expose going on right now about the behaviour of Facebook executive Mark Zuckerberg, where he just said, look, hey, yeah, run with it, just go and steal those books. So the AI company takes the books from the pirate site. Zhup. What is the harm with that? Well, the harm with that is our scammer friend here at the bottom right. So he's using AI from the AI company to generate multiple similar sounding books that replicate a lot of the features of Amos's hard work. The title is very similar. If you're starting to type that title into the ebook search engine on the ebook website, you probably get that sort of autocomplete. There's a big long list, maybe the right hand side of that field is cut off. The author might not appear completely there either, so you think, oh, that kind of looks like what I want. So you click on it, takes you into the store, and you're kind of in a rush, you're on your phone, bam, you buy it, and then, what, this is wrong, this doesn't seem, wait, and you start reading it, but the text is wrong. But you're like, what do I do now? Do I just get rid of this book? Amos's book seems to have gone downhill. But you might not even realize that it's actually not written by the real author. And what happens is this flood of fake books is actually squeezing out the real book. So you can see there in the image, I've tried to indicate that because the real book in blue there is completely flooded out by all these fake books shown in yellow. So it's very hard to pick out the exact book that you really want amongst all of these fakes. And also the ebook companies are getting takedown notices all the time from authors who just don't have enough time to defend themselves against this. They get rid of them and a bunch more of them get pushed up. So now this kind of copying, like our scammer, they could do this manually without AI, right? So is AI really the criminal here? Well, yes, they are, because with this scammer, they can just do a massive bulk operation and automate a lot of this stuff. So they can just get dozens and dozens of these books and do it for dozens and dozens of authors. For each book that they rip off, they might generate, a dozen copies with similar sounding names. And the more popular the book, the better. But they also do it with relatively obscure books. And the result is just awful for authors to realize that all of their hard work is going to generate, a smattering of income for some scammer who is just totting up the figures there and just, getting those small incremental tiny sales. But because they're doing it for so many books, they get a ton of money out of it. So I just wanted to call that out. I wanted to try to do a visual explainer of what is going on. So I hope that has been super valuable.